Hello there to everyone out there. Thanks for joining me today. This channel is called It's When Lightning Strikes, and I am Grace, and I will be your host. This is the introductory video to kind of explain what this channel is, why it is, and why I'm doing it. So, Spirit has tasked me to do this channel, and quite honestly, because I believe in keeping it real. That's one thing we're going to be doing together, is keeping it real. I'm not a big fan of this, really. This is kind of weird and creepy for me to be talking to a camera. And it just kind of is what it is, I guess. So I'm gonna be learning how to be comfortable being super uncomfortable, which hopefully won't always be the case. I've just found, I've been here a while now, that when Spirit wants you to do something, it's typically a good idea to do it, whether you want to do it or not. Not doing it, anything that Spirit wants you to do, never seems to work out very well. So we're doing it, and beyond being uncomfortable at this point, because I know a lot of the topics we're going to be discussing, I'm actually really looking forward to it in a lot of ways, because it's going to be interesting. I wear my glasses up on my head like this a lot. I thought it was better than having them on, even though there's a lot of light out here, but it's always nice to see somebody's eyes when you are talking together. So whether they're my sunglasses or my reading glasses, you'll be seeing my glasses like this a lot, because this is who I am and we're keeping it real. What is this channel about? That's the next good question. So I would say that at the highest level, this channel is about the profound disconnect that is present in this world. And I mean, it's present everywhere, in virtually everything. And it's going to be really interesting to kind of touch on all of the different aspects that I see anyway, and I'm sure people will have, those or more, or maybe these will all be new. I don't know. The goal of doing this is to really get everybody thinking again, thinking, reflecting, contemplating, going within, and really, figuring out what's going on here, and what things mean to you. It's also about truth, and there's the truth of things, there's what we think is the truth of things, and then there's our own personal truth, and within our own personal truth we have to be ferreting out, and again, this is through reflection or contemplation or introspection, is it really our truth? It's very interesting when you go through the ferreting out of the truth process, as I like to call it. What you find is no longer true for you. And really kind of what that means is, we come into this world and we have parents and grandparents and teachers and any number of people that are in our life, and without realizing it, because we're children, we develop a lot of our belief system or a lot of our truths from all of these people. And unless you start challenging them, meaning this is a truth for me, is it something I really hold to be true? Where did I get this truth from? Do I really believe that? You got to start questioning everything in your own belief system is kind of the place to start, because we each have to have our own truth, a truth that belongs solely to us. And we can't have that if we're carrying the beliefs or the truths of other people, whether that be our mother, our father, our teacher, it could be anybody. So we're going to be learning a lot about the truth and kind of ferreting that out. And then, everybody has to do this individually as well, if you so choose. I highly recommend it. It's a very interesting process, and you are going to be astounded at the number of things that you find are not yours. And that's a good discovery to have, because then you can find out for yourself what you believe is true. And really that's what everybody needs and should have, is their own personal truth. So we'll be visiting that a lot, and the disconnect everywhere and how that manifests. And this will give us a lot of points of contemplation as well in every aspect of our life. And this is introspection, reflection, contemplation. They're all the same thing, just 3 different words. Is really valuable, and I don't know that everyone does enough of that. So I've been practicing contemplation, introspection, reflection intentionally, so with intention, for years. And now it's just sort of an automatic thing. It's part of my being, like breathing. I don't have to think about it anymore. It just happens on its own, because that is part of who I am. So we'll be learning more about that as time goes by, as well as, our relations in the natural world that, teach us any number of things. Brother Bear would be our teacher for going within, or introspection, reflection, contemplation. And we'll get into that more when it's time. So one of the things you're going to discover eventually is that I like to ask a lot of questions, and I believe that everybody needs to start asking more questions. And Spirit has taught me that asking questions is probably the least offensive way of approaching somebody else in terms of what they're saying. Even then, people can get a little angry, but one of my favorite things to do when someone comes up to me and says whatever, blah, 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 and basically they're parroting something they've heard from somewhere, whether it's a friend or the news or a newspaper or a magazine, it doesn't really matter, is I'll look at them and I'll ask them, well, how do you know that that's true? And, you know, they kind of are taken back, if you will, and I'll get an answer. Well, I saw it on the news. Okay, how do you know it's true? And the second time I ask that question is typically when people start getting a little angry or completely befuddled. And it typically seems to be one or the other. At that point, there doesn't seem to be anything in between. And it's really interesting, this reaction, because they really should be doing this on their own, don't you think? I mean, we should all be doing this on our own. Just because somebody says something or writes something or however they communicate this information on the radio, on the TV, it doesn't really matter. It's really unwise, in my opinion, to just believe it. I mean, why would we do that? Why wouldn't we be questioning it? Why wouldn't we be doing our own research? Blindly believing anything. Well, I mean, that's just not who I am. And we really need to be questioning, especially in this world that we currently are living in, everything, literally everything, to find the truth. The truth is an interesting thing, and I'm a big fan of the truth, and a lot of times, especially in this world that we currently live in, the truth is really, really ugly, and or really painful, or really ugly and really painful. It's just not a pleasant thing much of the time currently, and you got to be really courageous to want the truth, no matter what it is, no matter how ugly it is, no matter how painful it is. It's the truth. And without the truth, the real truth, as a starting point, how can we really change anything? If we try to change something without starting in the correct place, we're just sort of spinning our wheels, we're wasting our time, because we don't have the truth of things. So This is why the truth, no matter how awful it might be, is so important. I encourage everybody to start asking questions of everyone and everything until you have a complete viewpoint, which, could be anything, how can you make good decisions for yourself? And this is every aspect of your life. This is asking questions of everybody in your life. What does that mean? What are you saying? Why is that a good idea? What are you hoping to accomplish? Why is this medication better than another one? What are the side effects of this medication? Ask questions. I can't even tell you or stress the importance of asking questions. You just can't blindly be following others. It's not wise. It's absolutely unwise. So we're going to be talking about that a lot in a lot of different aspects as well. And I'm going to be asking a lot of questions. Because again, it's about stimulating thought. It's about finding the truth. It's about making good decisions based upon the truth. And this is really needed in this world because I don't know if anyone else has noticed, but we have a lot of room for improvement, putting it mildly, in my opinion. Our first topic of disconnect is going to be the disconnect with our food. And it's interesting how this manifests. So I decided to do an experiment, and I randomly asked complete strangers, where does your food come from? And I wasn't really surprised by the answer. But it's the wrong answer. So where does your food come from? And the answer was the grocery store. And you might all be thinking, well, that's the right answer. But yet it's not. And let me tell you why. You buy your food at the grocery store. You buy it there, but that's not where your food comes from. Okay? So the food that you buy in the grocery store comes from who knows where. Farms, places all over the world ship us food, ship us fruit, ship us vegetables. The meat, if you eat meat, this comes from animals, living beings that are no longer alive because they have been killed to create all of the meat that you buy at the store. So these are living cows, turkeys, chickens, pigs, lambs, fish, any number of beings. They used to be alive like you and I, and now they're not. because they were killed to create the meat that you're buying in the store. Why is this important? Gosh, for so many reasons. In the old days, and we're not talking that long ago, before stores, before all this processing, before all of this business we have going on right now, people used to grow their own food. People used to have gardens. People used to go out and hunt, and that's how they ate. And so this process was hard work. Number one, you had to work for it. You couldn't just go to the store and buy lettuce and tomatoes and make yourself a salad. You had to sow the fields. You had to plant the fields. You had to care for and nurture the fields and whatever you had growing so that it could come to fruition and you could harvest it and eat it. In terms of gathering or obtaining meat, somebody had to go out and find it. This might be riding a horse for miles. This could be walking for miles. And you had to find it. And then you had to have the ability and the skill, because you had to be a real hunter back then to actually maybe obtain this animal. And actually the animal in reality is giving itself to you, but that's a whole other topic. And so you had to take a life. And this is important to understand because this is the disconnect with buying it in the store, because there's no connection with getting a hamburger and knowing that this used to be a steer or a cow. It's a horrible disconnect because you have no concept, no conceptual framework that this was a living thing. It was breathing, it was eating, it was drinking, it was being, and until it wasn't. And so when you have to take a life is when this is driven home. And it means something then. And for many people in this world, mainly the indigenous peoples that still live this way, taking a life is a sacred act, and it should be. And the life that you've taken is honored and respected. And you give gratitude and thankfulness for what this life gives to you, which is life. So you're taking a life, or this life is giving itself to you so that you can live, quite frankly. So this disconnect with our food is really profound. For those of us that are older, that have lived in that way, have had gardens. This is how I grew up. I grew up like a pioneer, really. We hunted, we fished, we had a garden, we canned all of our own food, we made bread, And when I was a kid, I was just like, oh, this is so awful. Because none of my friends lived like that. You know, they went to the grocery store and they got all of their stuff. Now I know how lucky I was, how blessed I was to have had such fresh food to eat every day of my life. We spent the whole summer growing and the whole summer canning, and we had one whole room in our house that had shelves from floor to ceiling with all of the stuff that we canned. I did not even go to a grocery store until I was somewhere in my teens. I had no idea what was in a grocery store. And that's kind of mind-boggling, I'm sure, to hear, but it's true. And I was so blessed to have grown up that way, and I know that now. Our children now, what do they know? They know that you get your food from a store. And we really need to get real about that again. It is a huge disrespect to all of these living beings that are being grown and slaughtered to feed us, that people don't understand that this is what is really happening, that this is really what their food is all about. And we all should be honoring the food that we're eating. And we all really should understand what has happened here to bring us this food, even though we may not be the integral part in the process that we used to be way back when we had to take that life ourselves and process the animal, gut the animal, skin the animal, cut the animal up, preserve it in whatever way we chose to do that. And more than that is what's happening correct? Is it the right thing to be doing? Personally, I would say it's not. Many of these beings, these animals, are relatives. These are our relatives. What kind of life do they have? And what gives us the right to do that to them? These are good questions. A lot of them never get to see the outside. A lot of them are abused, mistreated, stuck in cages, cramped spaces. They really have a life of misery. And this is really, I don't know, doesn't this seem wrong? Because it does seem wrong to me. More than that, I think we need to think about, the cellular memory of these beings. So this misery, this fear, this despair, this hopelessness, I believe, is being recorded in the cellular memory of this being. And if we believe that to be true, which I believe that to be true, you can find your own truth on that, but isn't that what we're eating? If we're eating that meat, are we not ingesting the fear, the hopelessness, the despair, the suffering that this being was subjected to during their time that they were alive? I think that's what's happening. I really feel that to be true. And it's really, really sad. Heartbreaking, really, for me. That anything should suffer so much. And that it's allowed to happen. And maybe this is something we all need to be contemplating in terms of, is this right? Is it wrong? If it's wrong, then what are we going to do to change it? Because every time we go to the store and we buy chicken, hamburger, whatever, aren't we supporting it in its continuance? I think we are. The other interesting thing when it comes to meat specifically is some of the labeling that you'll find, specifically with beef. So next time you're at the store, you may see this, so look for it if you want. But the labels will say grass-fed beef. Now, beef is what we call the meat that comes from our cow relations. So, beef cannot be grass-fed because it's not a living being. Cows are grass-fed, steers are grass-fed, but beef is not. So this is just another level of disconnect that makes this product seem like it was never a living being, which is just, for me, another level of disrespect. It's just everywhere. It just really is. So we have a lot to contemplate after our gathering today. Really enjoyed our visit, and I'm really looking forward to when we come together again. Until then, be well, be brave, ask some questions, and most of all, be blessed.